Uh-oh. Motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. We now know who Iana Verduzco, otherwise known as Right Hook Roxy, is going to be facing later on this month, on the 21st. She's going to be facing Celine Roman as part of a 360 Promotions show, 360. That's Tom Loeffler's promotional company that still hosts matches over there on the West Coast. Iana signed a promotional pact with 360 1 or 2 fights ago, a well-to-do promotional outfit that's doing a good job of keeping her busy, sporting a professional record of 4 wins with no losses, no draws, 1 recorded knockout, 23 years old. Not a lot of fights on paper, but she is a smidge more experienced than what you see here, as she spent a bit of time in Team Combat League. So she does have a few more rounds than her professional record lets on. She will be facing journeywoman Celine Roman, who sports a professional record of 6 wins with 3 losses, 1 draw, 36 years old, last in action in February of this year against debutante Amanda DeRosa, who she won a majority decision against. Before that, Celine hadn't boxed in approximately 10 years. You heard that right. Between the Amanda DeRosa fight and the Ronika Jeffrey fight, there is a 10-year hiatus there. The fight with Iana will be only the 2nd fight that Celine has had in the last decade. So for Iana, this is very much a developmental fight, a bring-along fight, which is customary for a fighter in the early stages of their career when they have less than 10 fights. These are the kind of opponents you can expect a fighter to face. Iana herself was last in action in April of this year opposite the ring, Jessica Maltez. It's a good schedule of activity for Iana. She's already fought 2 times this year, once in January, again in April, and she's about to fight again in June, leaving the door open for her to have 1 or 2 more fights this year, if she so chooses. Do you see how she's graduated from 4-rounders up to 6-rounders? The fight with Celine will be her very first 8-rounder. Oftentimes I think that gets overlooked by the boxing fans, that it's not just graduating to fighting better opponents, it's also about fighting for a longer duration of time and getting used to that. Those 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 10-rounders, 12 for the men. This is being billed as a featherweight contest. Featherweight. That's where Tiara Brown holds the WBC. That's where Nina Menka holds the IBF. That is where Amanda Serrano still holds 2 alphabet titles, though I don't expect Amanda to hang on to them very long, and that is where Iana Verduzco is currently campaigning. At only 4-0, it'll be a while before Iana Verduzco challenges for an alphabet title, is ready to win one, because there's winning a title, but there is also defending it. 23 years old, she's got plenty of time, she doesn't need to rush. I could see her becoming a champion at featherweight after Amanda retires and some of those belts get freed up, but the same applies to the super featherweight division. Should Alicia Baumgartner vacate her titles to move up in weight, I could also see Iana becoming a champion up there at 130. Very exciting young fighter with a good air about her and a fan-friendly style. I expect her to win later on this month. And what is this developmental fight? Look for Iana on the 21st. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, in the men's bantamweight division, Team Nakatani wants Rafael Espinoza fight, says Inoue can challenge Junto for the featherweight title. LA. The tag team tandem of Ring's 2024 Fighter of the Year finalist Junto Nakatani and the Ring's Trainer of the Year finalist Rudy Hernandez realizes they have to blaze their trail and not necessarily wait for their night against Inoue. Inoue showed in his come-from-behind knockout win against Ramon Cardenas earlier last month that monstrous plans can dramatically shift with a single punch. Nakatani, the WBC 118-pound champion, and Inoue, the undisputed super bantamweight champion, are set to square off in a super fight in Japan next year. But until then, Inoue's planned fights against MJ Akhmadaliev and Nick Ball. Nakatani, 30-0 with 23 KOs, is set to face IBF bantamweight champion Ryosuke Nishida on June 8th, that's this Sunday, with the vacant Ring Magazine title on the line as well. The fight will likely be the last for Nakatani at 118 pounds. As the Inoue fight takes shape, Hernandez envisions jumping up 2 weight classes to face WBO crown holder Rafael Espinoza and forcing Inoue, who plans on finishing his career as a featherweight, to meet his countrymen there. I would love to go straight to an Espinoza fight for the WBO featherweight title, Hernandez told The Ring after a training session with Nakatani at the LA boxing gym. It's a great fight because you have two very tall and talented fighters going against each other. It would give Junto a bigger status. He would wow the people. If we're not going to get Inoue, we can go to Espinoza. If they offer us that fight, we will take it in a heartbeat. And Inoue can come fight us at 126 for the featherweight title. This is a reason Naoya Inoue is considered #1 in the world. I sense a tinge of apprehensiveness from Rudy Hernandez when he makes this suggestion. Does the fight between Inoue and Junto really need to be built even more? It's already on track to be the biggest fight Japan has ever seen. I don't know that it actually needs more build-up at this point. I don't know that it needs Junto to jump up 2 weight classes to fight at featherweight unless Rudy is making that suggestion for some other reason. And I don't think it's to build up the Inoue fight per se. I think it's because Junto is tight at the weight. He's tight at 118, and Rudy is perhaps afraid that he would also be tight at 122 because Junto is a big kid. He's bigger than Inoue. There is a reason that Inoue is considered #1 in the world, depending on who you ask. I consider him the best in the world because he's constantly fighting and moving up in weight. It's his time right now. Are there flaws? Yes. Muhammad Ali got dropped. Sugar Ray Robinson got dropped. All these great fighters who were great at one time got dropped. But they got up and did what champions do. They get up and survive, fight hard and win. Inoue and Nakatani are on the same freeway, traveling in different lanes. If our roads cross, they cross. We'll be ready, but nothing else matters unless we're successful on June 8th. I anticipate that they will be. I anticipate that Junto Nakatani will beat Ryosuke Nishida on Sunday in the land of the rising sun, and I anticipate that after that, he's gonna move up. It's just a question of where. Will he move up to 122, or will they skip that and go straight to 126? Last month, Inoue took offense to Rudy Hernandez's comments in the ring that they want to face Inoue next before he gets older and damaged by more wars. We would rather fight Inoue now than tomorrow, Hernandez told The Ring. I want to get a better version of Inoue than an older version. If we wait until next year, the excuse will be that Inoue got older. There is more credit to it if we beat him now. Anytime a fighter gets a bit older, that's the first excuse. They'll say, it would have been different if he were younger. The offended Inoue offered a retort. Hey Rudy, a year from now, I'll still be in my prime. No excuses. No one's getting weaker. I will go see the view from above, said Inoue in a tweet on a post on X, translated from Japanese to French. What? As stated, I sense a tinge of worry from Rudy Hernandez that his fighter is busting at the seams, and even if he moves up to 122 right after this weekend's fight, it won't be long before he's tight at that weight too. When you make a dramatic suggestion, like moving up 2 weight classes in one fell swoop, it's not for no reason. They want to get a leg up on Inoue, move to a weight that's healthy for Junto that may not be all that healthy for Inoue. They want to get there first. Get the drop on him. Fighting Rafael Espinoza is quite the recommendation. I don't know that that's who they end up fighting. Maybe Angelo Leo, who was just over there. He boxed Tomoki Kamita and won a decision. So the Japanese are now familiar with this fighter. Some of them. Maybe they put him in the ring with Junto. Junto Nakatani, who is embracing the underdog role as the Inoue clash looms, all the while Rudy's talking about moving him up the feather. The underdog role comes with its natural benefits, often diluting the more obvious disadvantages that one faces when the odds are unapologetically stacked against them. Of course, the A-side fighter, if you will, may have a psychological edge with regard to their experience on the night. Something as trivial as a larger dressing room, for instance, or perhaps even a smoother ride to the venue, will only affirm, in their mind, what is already understood, that they are the main attraction. When it comes to the preparation of both fighters, though, the underdog is likely to boast a small but no less significant advantage. Having not just watched but studied their rival for a number of years, the B-side fighter has been afforded an opportunity to equip themselves, both mentally and physically, for the grandest occasion of their career. Their opponent, on the other hand, has all the while been distracted by other assignments, never really offering the underdog so much as a second thought. As it happens, this dynamic seems to ring true for Junto Nakatani, a bantamweight world champion who, above all else, has his sights set on a monumental all-Japanese showdown with two-division undisputed king Naoya Inoue. While Inoue occupies the spotlight, Nakatani, 30-0 with 23 KOs, has diligently sharpened his tools in the shadows, always keeping his rival at the forefront of his mind. And that persistence, or rather, that obsession to constantly measure himself against the very best, has quite naturally put the 27-year-old in a far stronger position ahead of their expected battle next year. That's an advantage that Inoue has given me. He motivates me to fight better, said Nakatani, a brief sparkle appearing in his eye. We're ideally looking at around this time next year to fight Inoue, but a lot of things can happen between now and then. You're telling me Rudy wants you to skip past Inoue's division to move up to 126? For myself, I know that I have to take every fight seriously and keep winning, or else that fight may disappear. So I'm working very hard for each and every one of my fights coming up. Along with his desire to land the Inoue extravaganza, Nakatani remains equally determined to leave behind an illustrious legacy once he eventually calls it quits. Already the wheels are in motion for his career to be widely celebrated in years to come, but still, the three-weight world champion only wishes to further enhance his own greatness. In his next assignment, he will be presented with an opportunity to do just that, as Big Bang looks to unify his division at the Ariake Coliseum in Tokyo, Japan, this Sunday. Standing in his way of additional accolades, meanwhile, is Ryosuke Nishida, IBF bantamweight champion, who adopts an almost mirror image of Nakatani's spindly southpaw style. Yet still, while acknowledging his opponent's undeniable strengths, the WBC champion firmly believes that his expertly cultivated approach will prevail come fight night. Becoming a unified champion would improve my stature within the boxing industry and give me more opportunities to be involved in big matchups, Nakatani said. Nishida has a good lead hand, but I do too. I should be able to overcome his lead hand with my lead hand, Crawford. While at the age of 27 there is still plenty more years left for him to flourish, Nakatani has, in equal measure, immersed himself in combat sports, or at least some version of fighting, throughout the majority of his life. It was ultimately boxing, though, that captivated him in a way that was unlike anything else. Its magnetic energy only pulling him closer towards the art of pugilism. At around 8 or 9 years old, I started competing in karate, he recalled. But it got to a point where I found it very difficult to win. So I wanted to compete in a sport that's regulated by weight. That's how I found boxing. My mentor for boxing then started giving me encouragement, and so I was happy with the motivation that I got through training. And I was getting results at my more natural weight against opponents where, for either one of us, there were no excuses. We were competing on a fair basis, which was a good experience for me. Only then did Nakatani begin to plot his future, knowing that in order to reach the dizzying heights of world championship glory, he first needed to surround himself with the right team of people. Even at just 15 years of age, the the Japanese star had already developed a ferociously ambitious mindset, not wishing to remain in his home comforts, but instead roll the dice with a trip over to America, where life is hard, but the women are easy. From there, Nakatani's bold but calculated risk swiftly began to pay dividends, allowing him to progress at an almost meteoric rate. I really didn't have a difficult time moving to America because along with the rest of my team, I was training with Rudy Hernandez, my head coach. He explained, I was able to freely and comfortably grow as a boxer, so I was very pleased to have that experience. There was a language issue, of course, but I was able to prove myself and make a statement in boxing rather than speaking. Boxing has always been fun for me, but in order to make myself stronger and better, I knew that I needed the right environment. For me, that environment was LA. Training with Rudy Hernandez and joining the team that he had built is also why I was able to come out of my comfort zone. While having based himself in America ever since, it could be said that Nakatani's culture, too, has contributed to his resounding success in the sport. In the land of the rising sun, there exists an almost palpable warrior spirit. It seems that it has been passed down through the generations, unlike the pussies you see in America.
Bitches.
Often stretching far beyond the confines of a ring, perhaps deriving from the samurai. That fighting instinct has seemingly become even more profound in recent years, with Japan establishing itself as a prolific breeding ground for meticulously crafted combatants. But with that being said, it takes a particularly extraordinary individual, regardless of their heritage, to enter a gladiatorial arena. For Nakatani, his elegance and tenacity is not limited to a blanket explanation regarding his culture, but rather, each performance in the ring offers a fiercely unique reflection of his character. At the same time, though, the crafty technician acknowledges that for the vast majority of people in Japan, there is, indeed, a fire that burns deep inside. Some say it's the warrior spirit. Others say it's indigestion. It's an individual thing, involving personality and everything else, Nakatani opined. Not every Japanese person has that warrior instinct or fighting spirit, but I think, more often than not, they're likely to have it. Sure enough, Nakatani will need more than a warrior's instinct should he eventually lock horns with Inoue, a truly ruthless knockout artist. But as we've seen in the past with Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield, offering a prime example, the underdog, when given the time to do so, is often capable of putting together a compelling game plan. And so, just as Holyfield was made to wait to an almost agonizing degree before securing his opportunity, Nakatani continues to chug away behind the scenes, keeping his potent left hand permanently primed in the process.
That was a terribly long-winded way of saying that Junto relishes being the underdog.
And that between him and Rudy, they are sharpening their proverbial swords for the attack on the monster. The question now is, do they follow up on that? After Sunday's fight, if they win, do they then decide to skip 122 immediately after that and go straight up to 126?
I don't know how Rafael feels about going to Japan, but I don't think Angelo Leo would have a problem. He just went there. So maybe he goes back for Junto, maybe they offer him a lot of money, maybe we see that.
But it's dangerous, you know. I mean, yeah, Junto's big for 118, and even for 122, but jumping up 2 weight classes,
That jeopardizes the Inoue fight in and of itself.